Hi all, today we are going to be talking about graphing systems of equations. So I use a certain method where you have to solve for y first every single time and then use the graphing calculator to graph the points, okay? So I know there's a lot of methods using slope and y-intercept and so on, but for me and my students we just use the graphing calculator. So if you'd like to pause the video to write down the steps right now, you can. But the steps are solve both equations for y, graph the first equation, graph the second equation, and then make sure you identify your intersection point. That's very important because that is your solution. Where they cross is the solution to that system. I like to deal with one equation at a time. There is a way that you can get the answer on the graphing calculator by putting in both at the same time, and that's going to be for a separate video. So let's get started. Let's head on to example number 1. Number 1 says y equals 7x plus 3 and y equals x minus 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is recognize that it is already solved for y. So we are going to place one equation in the calculator at a time. So I'm already in y equals in my graphing calculator, and I'm going to type in 7x plus 3. So 7x plus 3. And take a look at second graph to get all of the points that we are going to be plotting. Now obviously mine started at -8, yours will probably start at 0, but these are points that I'm not going to be able to fit on my 10 by 10 graph. So I'm going to scroll down until I find a couple that I can plot. So I have a few right here. -1, -4, 0, 3, 1, 10, and then the rest don't work. So I only need 2 or 3 points in order to connect the dots and make a line. So I'm just going to graph these really quickly. I'm going to do it in red so you see the 2 separate lines. So -1, -4 is down here, 0, 3, and 1, 10. Okay, so I'm going to do the best I can and just draw the graph here, draw the line. Close enough, arrows on both ends. I'm done. I graphed the first equation, so now I just need to move on to the next one. So I'm going to do this one in blue. I'm going to go back to y equals, and I'm going to type in x minus 3. So x minus 3, take a look at your table. Here are a whole bunch of points that I will be able to graph. So if I go back to the blue color, let's see, -2, -5, 5, and then -1, -4. Oh look, hey, I had that point there already. And the rest are actually going to follow in the same pattern. And we can draw the line. Okay. So, arrows on both ends. So we graphed the first equation, we graphed the second equation since they were already solved for y, and now the fourth step rather, is to identify the intersection point. So our intersection point is right here where they cross. This is the guy that we're looking at. So he's at -1, -4. That is our intersection point, and therefore the solution to the system. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. So if we take a look at number 2, we have y equals 4x minus 1. Awesome, already solved for y. And the second example is 2x plus y equals 5. So let's make sure both are solved for y so that we can graph a little bit more easily. So if we take a look, we need to solve we need to solve the second example for y. So 2x plus y equals 5. So I need to get y by itself, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Y is equal to 5 minus 2x, or in standard form would be -2x plus 5. And now we're done. Now we're ready to graph. So I'm just going to use the same color for both, only because on the Regents exam or on your test, you're more than likely not going to have 2 different color pens. So let's take a look. So if we take a look, we're going to go to y equals. We are going to type in 4x minus 1. Take a look at our table. And here are a whole bunch of points for us to graph. So I'm going to plot -2, -9, which is all the way down here. I'm going to plot -1, -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and then 0, -1. And the rest will follow in this pattern. Up 4 to the right 1, up 4 to the right 1. So connect the dots, or connect the points rather, and draw your line. Equation 1, done. Now we're going to move on to equation 2. Y equals -2x plus 5. So back to y equals, and type in -2x plus 5. Take a look at our table, and here are the points that we are going to graph. Just double checking here, okay. So -2, +9 is our first point. Then we have -1, 7, 0, 5, 1, 3. Ooh, that looks familiar. And so on in the same pattern. Okay, if you need to do this a little bit slower on your own, by all means pause whenever you need to. So we're going to connect the line and identify our intersection point. Our intersection point is right here at 1, 3, which represents our solution, okay? So let's take a look at the third example. Okay, so here's example number 3. Notice that both of them are not solved for y. So I'm going to have to solve both equations for y before I can go ahead and graph. So I'm just going to take this 4x plus y off to the side here and solve it for y. So we're going to subtract 4x from both sides. You'll be left with y equals -4x plus 2. Done. That's what we're going to be graphing later. Then we have x minus y equals 3. And we have to subtract x from both sides. You're left with -y equals -x plus 3. And now we have to divide by -1. So divide everyone by -1. And y is equal to +x minus 3. Okay, so you don't need to watch me do this a second time. I'll be right, so for a third time, I'm going to be right back and have these two graphed and see what happens, okay? Hang on one second. Okay, so we're back. I wound up using the calculator to graph both of these lines. I did one at a time, plotted all the points, connected the dots to make the lines, and now I just have to identify the intersection point. So our intersection point is right here at 1, -2. So 1, -2 is the intersection point and therefore the solution to the system. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching A Heiser Creation, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.